everybody always asks, what's the Perseus? Nobody ever asks, how's the Perseus? You selfish f***. No, I'm kidding. So we've got the newest RSI ship. Actually, instead of, let's start out with the 2023 messaging. This is the big ship this year, possibly, maybe, probably not actually. There might be one that's bigger. We'll talk about that later. It starts with iron. It ends with something that rhymes with fad. But this ship is still pretty big, pretty anticipated, and pretty powerful. This could mix up the combat scene quite interestingly in Star Citizen because it offers easy access, well, easy, relatively speaking, to some large guns in a profile that actually can command some space and some control of space, but also is in decent danger from other large ships and anti-capital ships. So this could be one of the first ships that gets people more interested in taking out ships like the Retaliator or the Ares, these smaller anti-cap ships. This isn't a capital ship. It's about the size of the Hammerhead, but I think it will be used more strategically than the Hammerhead is. So it'll be more interesting to come across. Sorry, I am doing terrible at finding the actual ship for you, but it is called the Perseus. And back in 2023, they got the hype cycle started for this ship after years of not really knowing what was going to happen with it. It was introduced in 2020, so part of the backlog. But it was meant to follow up the Polaris in production, so here is that announcement.
The Galaxy, then we've got the Perseus. This allows us to tackling important, exciting areas of each ship. Tackling them as a family kind of allows us to expedite their development. We leverage the experience that we've got within the team. And it just allows us to, like I say, streamline everything. So first up, we've got the Polaris. Next up, we've got the Galaxy. Then we've got the Perseus. And that kind of closes out most of our large RSI ships. And then we can see what we want to take on.
They haven't gotten to the Galaxy yet. And there are a lot of reasons why that might be the case. The biggest is the biggest is always what's the priority? And in between this announcement and a year later, it became very clear to CIG that they were not ready to release the Galaxy. We saw that even with the kerfuffle back in November, I think it was, or October, when they basically tried to say the Galaxy was not going to be building bases. And then they had to kind of go back and be like, it is. Misunderstanding. So they went with the Perseus first, which I feel like would have been the best choice from the get-go because they've always gone combat first. It's the easiest for them to produce, and they have size 7 weapons. But this is going to take some custom weaponry. It's also going to have a pretty big interior, which we're about to see in this video. So it's going to take some work, but I think this might be coming this year. Some people think Invictus. I'm still thinking IAE, but we'll see. Let's take a look at what it looks like.
So this ship is really a military ship. It's about destroying other big ships.
Because it's so formidable that you're in a fight, and if somebody turns up with a fleet and it's stacked full of gunships, you're just going to be like, oh, damn.
Damn.
A fleet in Star Citizen is sort of built around a capital ship, or capital ships as its core. So you have the Javelin, which is a destroyer, so that is designed for really duking it out with other big capital ships. You have the Idris, which is a carrier, so can sort of take on other big ships. It's got a big railgun on the front, but primarily it's there to deliver fighters. And then you have the Polaris, which is a long-range torpedo boat. And you have the Hammerhead, which is a great anti-fighter screen. But what we're missing is this hybrid role that sits between the Hammerhead and the Polaris that is your fleet defense ship, that is moderately large size and capable of dishing out firepower to deal with large ship threats that aren't quite capital ships.
It has been a while since we've done an RSI ship. Obviously there are some in the fleet already, and then you take all those and you fold in the functionality.
When we were designing this ship, it was obviously built around
I'm sorry, Apollo fans. They keep on flashing that one at you guys, and I don't know. I hope it comes this year, but who knows?
The concept of having these large turrets, that you had a bridge on the front, but it sort of just felt like a Polaris with a turret on the top and the bottom. And for a ship of this style, having that bridge at the front didn't quite sit well with us, so we then tried alternates with a more traditional bridge, taking cues from the Bengal, and that definitely looked better. But then
dude, it's going to be so freaking cool. This reminds me of the in Andor, you know, when they're using the tractor ship to stop, what's his name, the guy with the cruiser, the hauler, the main dude, Lankin Lawless. I can't remember his name. He does so good though. The Skarsgård guy. He has the ship and he's getting away from the tractor ship, and they have the bridge up here and you can just see like everything in front of it happening. I love that. It's going to be so cool to watch this. Luthen, thank you. Hey, Gumbo, how you doing? It's going to be so cool to watch those turrets fire like that. Yeah, Luthen. Lincoln Lawless.
Blind spot behind, so we had to make sure that the rear turret could not have a blind spot there, and then deal with the point defense system turrets to help alleviate those spots.
You want it to look aggressive, but you also want it to be unique. You want it to look like it's part of the family. When you see,
I love the look of RSI's bigger ships from the newer stage. I don't like their older big ships like the Bengal and the even like the Constellation. I love these looks though, which is why I'm excited for the Galaxy, because I'm not really a combat person, but I'd love to fly a ship like this, or at least be in a ship that's flying like this. Y'all know I'm probably not going to be flying
this ship, you know you're in trouble. That's what players are looking for.
No, not a new video.
So originally the brief for the ship was a real skeleton crew of 4-man. So you had the pilot, the captain, and the 2 turret gunners. But as we developed the ship, it sort of felt a bit odd that such a small crew was operating such a relatively large ship. So the crew size for the ship is 6-man. That gives you a pilot, captain, 2 manned turret guns, because the S7 twin turrets are manned, and then it leaves you with these
Holy crap, wait, I'm sorry. I always thought these were missiles.
2 manned turret guns, because...
Is this the freaking ammunition for the turret? I believe this does not look like a missile. This is ballistic ammunition. If they actually have the autoloader system of the turret right here, could you imagine how... because the Polaris does that with its torpedoes, right? You imagine if the ballistic ammo actually cycles through the room while you're shooting? I guess this probably takes you up, but maybe you got a friend, you know? You can chill out, just watch. I would do that. Like, I'm not doing anything. I'm off engineering duty. I'll just watch your ammo go. It looks cool.
Because the S7 twin turrets are manned. And then it leaves you with these 2 extra rolls that are really
here's
flexible
your torpedoes. Much bigger.
in terms of what you want them to do.
So we wanted to layer in all the functionality that John wanted, but also make it easy to navigate. It should be clear for the player at any point what part of the ship
It actually looks quite Polaris in its design too. Where's the other turret though? Oh, it's back here. Okay, so you got one huge turret here, and then you got one here. This is basically like having two Crusader Ares just like strapped onto these parts of the ship.
Make it easy to navigate. It should be clear for the player at any point what part of the ship they're in, and it's split over 3 decks. So the lower deck is your cargo and access to the lower turret, and then you go up, and then that's sort of the main deck, and that goes from front to back. You know, you can reach your front turret torpedo room, or you can go right back into habitation and the captain's room. And there's also a central lift for ease of navigation, basically. And then the top floor is bridge.
Plenty of cargo space too. Well, you say that, but you probably have to use a lot of that for your ammo.
Escape pods.
The size of the cargo hold is a waste of space. You think it's too much? I don't know. For a patrol boat, you might actually need a decent amount of supplies and stuff if you're going to be out long term. But
engineering
how much
section.
SU is it?
So for a player, it should all be quite straightforward.
I think this ship really will add something to the fleet gameplay that is growing within Star Citizen. We've already seen aspects of that with the Invictus launch week. You've seen the capital ships in game. There's obviously the Hammerhead in game already. When this is in game, you'll also have much more of a rounded fleet to play with that will provide a great threat and deterrence to other players.
What they didn't know is that it would be half a decade. But yeah, so that's the Perseus. Big ship on the backlog, probably coming out this year. And I think there was one other video where they talked about it. No, is that the only video they released on this thing? Perseus. Yeah, actually, I think that was it. This was the Galaxy was the newer one. So that's really just it about with the Perseus. Let's see what the wiki has to say, because I am interested in the cargo. Large patrol gunship, modern components, redesigned as civilian model in 2950, intended for blockade duty engagements against subcaps. 5 torpedoes, 2 size 7 cannons, 2 smaller remote turrets. And it's got 50 SU of cargo. That's actually not that much. I mean, some of the things we need to learn about these ships is what the heck do you need to transport if you're going to have a really big ship? How much food do you actually need realistically? How many extra components? How much ammo? They talk about fleet gameplay 5 years ago, but like we're just now getting into the place where we could start asking that stuff. Engineering has to be online for these ships to even work how they're supposed to. So even if this ship does come out this year, it's going to be sitting pretty just like the Polaris, waiting for the actual gameplay to follow. I think it's got 2 BDTs. It's 100 meters in length. It's actually not as big as it looks. You can tell when you look at this shot. This shot makes it look like it's a little bigger than the Hammerhead. They're about the same size. Oh, there's a catwalk over the cargo bay. How do you... Is there that much detail on the interior? Where do you get your infos, man? Remote turrets. Manual turrets. Cargo. Biggest change made in converting this to civilian was a complete overhaul of the lower decks to accommodate more varied payloads and small vehicles. Perseus massive cargo bay has you covered planetside and beyond. Yeah, I'm not... Oh, here we go. Okay, cargo bay. 50 SCU with room for all manner of freight or rover-sized wheeled vehicles. Would there still be space for vehicles in there if they put rooms above it? I think it is weird there's no engineering bay. But that's... I think that's the only thing I would feel they really need to add. Somewhere over here, under the captain's quarters. That's not where you want to put an engineering bay, though. Who knows? Maybe this thing has grown a little bit. We haven't gotten any updates on this. I think the monthly report is coming out this week, so we might hear that it has grown in size and they've added an engineering bay, or that they've made some changes. I guess we'll have to see. We'll probably get a new look at this in the next few months, I bet. There's got to be an update on this ship coming out soon because it's in development. In fact, let's look at the last monthly report. Not that one. February. Oh, no, we do want January, actually. I believe in this one, they talked about the Perseus being impossible white or gray box. Yeah, I can't even make it come up. Okay, well, I guess we just can't use the website for this. They've talked about the Perseus, though, getting work, so I would think this is something that we'll at least get an update on in the next couple of months, but keep an eye out. Either way, the next mid-size combat ship coming to the game. Mid to large size, I guess. The Perseus.